And we're ready to go.
We're ready to go. Hello and welcome to the NAAIA webinar. Now is the time with our expert panelists. My name is Brendan Burnett and I am NAAIFA's Director of Professional Development, and I'll be assisting with the webinar today. During the webinar, you can type questions in the question box on the bottom of your screen, and those will be answered at the end during the Q&A session. It is now my privilege to welcome Rebecca Ratliff. Welcome, Rebecca.
Thank you, Brendan. Good morning or good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the last in a series of 4 webinars in celebration of Black History Month and Insurance Careers Month. I am Rebecca Ratliff, the president of the Atlanta Association of Insurance Professionals, NAAIA Atlanta. I'm also the president of Capital City Mediation. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce my colleagues, our panelists for today. Mr. George Nichols is the 10th president and CEO of the American College of Financial Service, the country's largest accredited nonprofit and educator dedicated to the financial services profession. Ms. Whitney Dillard, Programs Director for the Agents Council for Technology and Diversity, Independent Insurance Agents and Brokers of America, Inc. She leads various diversity and inclusion initiatives for the Big I. Welcome, Whitney. Welcome, George. Ms. Priscilla Hammonds, Assistant Vice President for Diversity and Inclusion, Grange Insurance. She leads the development and execution of the enterprise D&I strategy that impacts workplace, and marketplace, in addition to community. Welcome, Priscilla.
Thank you.
Todd Bolden, Senior Vice President of Berkeley Re America, Inc. Senior Vice President and Treaty Reinsurance Account Executive for Berkeley Re America, a division of the W.R. Berkeley Corporation. Welcome to our panelists. We're going to have our panel do a brief introduction of themselves, and then we will proceed with the webinar. We can just start, I guess, with the order of the introductions. Mr. George Nichols, will you speak a little bit about yourself?
I sure will. First of all, thank you very much for having me, Rebecca. I appreciate it, and I am honored to be on such a panel with a distinguished group of individuals. I am a newbie in my job. I've been the president and CEO of the American College for about 4 months now. We are focused on providing knowledge and educational technical skills to financial advisors across the country in insurance, financial services, whether it be banks, brokerages, security firms. And basically what we do is we try to provide the technical expertise for people in this space to be able to provide for their clients. We think of our mission as educating financial advisors so they can do their job of helping those in society that want to meet their financial objectives. In addition to our designations, we also offer a master's program. We have 2 masters. Most of the people know us for the CLU, the Certified Life Underwriter designation. But we also have those in retirement. We have those in wealth management. We have one for philanthropy. We have one for special needs. We have designations for leadership. But it's all really focused around what we see as the needs of the financial advisor, and it's where it's usable information and knowledge that makes you better in the marketplace. That's what we do.
Great. Thank you, George. Whitney?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, I am happy to represent Independent Insurance Agents and Brokers of America. We are the oldest and largest trade association of independent agents, founded in 1906. We have over 250,000 agents across the country. We're in every single state. And I work specifically on our diversity and inclusion initiatives. As Rebecca had mentioned, our Diversity Council has been around since 2002. We have 15 carriers that sit on our Diversity Council from across the country. I don't want to accidentally not say one, so I'm not going to say any of them right now. But 15
girl.
that sit on our council. We also have 6 agents that sit on our council, and we are having our very first diversity summit for independent agents January of 2020 in New Orleans. So super excited about that. And I think, and also I work with our Agents Council for Technology that brings vendors together, carriers together, and agents to create more efficient workflow processes or processes as it pertains to technology. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay, great. Thank you, Whitney. Priscilla?
Good morning or good afternoon to everyone. As it has already been mentioned, it's a pleasure to be part of this panel today to talk about the importance of education. My first full-time job is Assistant Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion for Grange Insurance. We are a regional carrier. We write business in 13 states, and we write auto, home, life, and business insurance. So for any of those who are on the line that happen to be agents, and if you're looking for additional opportunities to grow your agency in one of our 13 states, we'd love to talk to you about a possible partnership so you can write some Grange insurance business. Nice little plug for Grange. My other somewhat full-time job is I'm proud to say I'm currently on the board of NAAIA, and I currently serve as the programming chair. And so I'm very excited that these series of webinars have occurred over the last several weeks in honor of Black History Month. But also I'm just excited that we've had the opportunity to connect with a lot of our members to talk about a lot of very important topics, both from a personal perspective and from a professional perspective. As we talk about education a little bit today, I will share a little bit more about what NAAIA has been doing in the space around providing those educational opportunities and resources to our members. I will stop there.
Okay, thank you, Priscilla. Todd?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name's Todd Bolden. I am a SVP and Treaty Reinsurer Account Exec for Berkeley Re America, which is the U.S. brokered treaty reinsurance arm of the W.R. Berkeley Group. I've been in the business over 30 years, and most of that has been spent on the reinsurance side. My focus has always been underwriting, specifically commercial lines casualty. Specific lines of business includes GL, AL, umbrella, environmental, and various forms of professional liability. As you might expect, a lot of the business that lends itself to reinsurance support finds its way into the excess and surplus line segment. So many of the people that I support, or companies I support, do business by way of wholesale distribution as opposed to retail. And my geographical focus is primarily the U.S., but also involved in Latin America, the UK, and continental Europe.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for that. We're going to go right ahead into our questioning. The first question, and anybody can take this, no particular order. Attracting youth to the industry is both a challenge and an opportunity. What have you and your organization done to bridge the gap?
Well, I'll respond first, if that's okay. I'll say this. The specialty segment of the insurance industry, specifically property and casualty and reinsurance, I don't think has probably done the best job of recruiting young talent. I think a lot of it's got to do with the fact that over the past few years, a lot of companies looked at how much money was involved, how much time and money was involved in training people to become experts in the specialty areas, and decided to go the free agent as opposed to draft pick route, if you will. They started to actually pay more people in the business bigger salaries as opposed to investing in training. So as a result, there's a problem right now in the specialty ranks of our business, because there are a lot of people who have actually been the drivers of these spaces who are very close to retirement. So there's a bit of a dearth right now in terms of expertise, but I do believe that you're going to see a lot of opportunities employment opportunities coming from both the reinsurance and E&X segments, because they have no choice. So I think we're going to do a better job. We're going to see more opportunities. And I think the things we have to highlight are some of the things that our industry actually presents from an opportunistic standpoint that kind of transcend various businesses. Things like the marketing opportunities that we actually offer people as different parts of the world become bigger windows or buckets for insurance. Also the data that we actually engage in. Things like climate control, the climate issue, and how it's actually leading to larger catastrophes and how that involves a lot of capital management. So, there are certain things in our business that really transcend a lot of different industries. And I think a lot of that comes back to marketing, comes back to capital management, and it comes back to the culling of data. So I think we offer a lot. And I think, but again, I think in the specialty ranks, we haven't done the best job of actually developing young talent, but you're going to see a lot of opportunities coming down that pike because of that.
Great. Thank you, Todd. Anyone else have?
Yeah, Rebecca, I'll go ahead and chime in and speak a little bit about what NAAIA has been doing in that space to try to attract talent. We're very fortunate. A lot of our local chapters have really been reaching out and connecting with youth, offering scholarships also as a way to attract youth to the industry. One of our most exciting events, I think, at the annual conference is our National Talent Development Competition, where we bring in college students and they compete and do a business case. And, through that, we've been able to help those young folks secure mentorships and internships at some of the various companies that were represented at the conference. We also have some of our local chapters involved with the INVEST program, where local chapters, they go into high schools and they talk to the students about careers in insurance. So those are just a few of the ways that NAAIA has been specifically trying to reach out to youth. From a Grange insurance standpoint, I'll just quickly mention, we're doing some of the typical things that many companies do, which is obviously attend career fairs and college fairs. But because technology is playing such a huge role in the insurance industry, and there's such a big focus on innovation and working with InsurTech and all those different things, we've been inviting local colleges to our company to participate in what we call hackathons or innovation wars, where we would give those students a problem or a challenge to solve, and they put together a business case using technology to be able to help Grange think about, hey, here's some ways that we need to think about technology differently. So those are a couple of different ways that we're attracting talent using that technology piece as a kind of an attractor to help young folks know that the insurance industry, yes, it may not seem that exciting, but there are a lot of exciting opportunities just because of all the technology that's needed to help us sell our products. So I'll stop there.
That's great. Okay, thanks. That's great, given the fact that the youth leverage the technology that's available. They're learning to use the tools that are available to them. Those are great answers. Anyone else want to chime in on that? I think George?
Yes, I'd be more happy to. So when you think about the American College, we have about 20,000 students. Everything we provide is online. So it's really what I call e-learning. And we do business with insurance companies across the country. We do business with financial services firms. So we typically are getting their agents, their advisors that come to us for professional designations. As a result of that, we're able to put together different committees. So we have a millennial advisory board that reports in to our trustee board that talks about some of the challenges facing the millennial group. And so we focus on, through that group, technology, soft skills, developing study groups, the mentoring process, trying to connect them with mentors that they can be successful in the business. And so that's one piece of that, as we also address the skill level. So we get a chance to partner with companies across America that are doing different things to recruit, and then we're able to incorporate that into what our learning is, so that our students can take that back to their organizations and be able to provide that. An additional effort is every year we do what we call a knowledge summit for different groups, and we have one specific for African Americans. Our conference this year will be held August the 5th through the 7th in Atlanta. And last year we were in Washington, D.C., had about 600 African-American agents come in. A lot of companies were also represented. We had John Rogers from Ariel Group, the largest Black-owned asset management company in the U.S. We're working on a huge program for what we do in Atlanta, given the large minority population that exists there. So trying to bring in young folks in the business to get them to talking together, and then providing an opportunity to share their experiences and what works and what doesn't. In my prior experience at New York Life, I was very much involved with our agency department and helping to establish a African American focused market. We had about 1,200 agents that were involved in that, and doing some of the similar things that we actually were doing here at the college, which has been a nice transition for me in that regard.
Okay, great.
And
Thank you.
I will most certainly chime in as well. So the INVEST program, which is in conjunction with Independent Insurance Agents and Brokers of America, that's our nonprofit. We started it in 1970, and right now we're in 44 states across the country. We have over 800 programs. We've had the opportunity to do quite a bit with high school students and community college students, and totally love that we've done great things. We've provided a lot of scholarships for those going into college. But as of lately, we realized that, okay, that's great for those that are going into a four-year university, but what are we doing for those individuals that are more so student to career, classroom to career types of individuals? So we have started to put together an apprenticeship of sorts. It is not finalized. It is still just in the whole think tank and figuring out how we're going to move forward on it. But the thought process with it is licensing individuals that are just straight out of high school or community college, and getting them licensed, and then also placed into a job, whether that's within an agency or within an actual insurance company. So that's one of the things that we're doing. And I would totally be remiss if I did not mention, we are also, the entire month of February, we have had this PRISM Agency Management Challenge, where we've had 8 different colleges from across the country, and I'm going to cheat because I don't want to accidentally not mention a college, but we have Appalachian State involved, Howard University, Illinois State University, Indiana State University, Ohio State, Temple University, University of North Carolina, and the University of North Texas. And actually NAAIA, total kudos to them on the case management competition, because that kind of helped us to realize, okay, we need to do a little bit more. So we realized we have this amazing conference in DC every single year where we have 2,000 agents and top carrier execs and insurance legislator people that are all in one spot, and it's our flag star event, and we didn't have any college students there. So essentially this PRISM Agency Management Challenge, the top 3 teams we're now actually going to send over to DC to actually be a part. We're creating a student track and everything so they can actually be a part of the conference, have an opportunity to know what agents are doing, connect with them, be a part of the networking events, have an opportunity to learn the different carrier opportunities involved with the insurance industry, and then also have an opportunity to know what you could possibly do on Cap Hill as it pertains to insurance. So, yeah.
I love those points. Those are all great points. And what we've highlighted here in this discussion is how we partner as industry colleagues, as partners in different segments and across different disciplines for the benefit of the next generation in our industry. What I heard was licensing and job placement, skill level analysis, data analytics, scholarships, career fairs, college fairs, marketing. This is important for NAAIA at the chapter level and nationally, in addition to our individual companies. So thank you for those answers. And we'll expand it a little bit more as we get into the discussion with more information on the next 2 questions. Okay, so the next question is, what is the significance of professional development and continuing education on career and business success? And if you can, please incorporate the theme, now is the time.
I'll start, if that's okay. Obviously this is what we do for a living every day in terms of the professional development, continuing education, because in addition to offering professional designations and a master's program, we also do continuing education that the advisors who come to us will have the benefit of. When I think of now is the time, right now, if you're in the advisor, insurance agent, broker space, everybody's talking about the fiduciary standard and the issue of best interest. And if you actually segment that, there's 2 pieces to this best interest standard. One of them is a standard of loyalty. And the standard of loyalty is that I'm committed to you, my client, and that's what my priority is in terms of how I make my decisions. The other component of that is the standard of care. The standard of care is your competency. Are you knowledgeable? Do you have the appropriate credentials for you to give advice to individuals and families and businesses? And so if you're in this space, you've got to think about making sure that no matter how the legislation or regulations come out eventually over time, one is the loyalty issue, but the most important is, are you competent? Do you have the skills? Do you have proof to show that you can deliver the necessary expertise and advice for your clients? And so when you think about, now is the time, if you've only got your license and you've only got company training, you should begin to think about, is that enough for you to defend yourself in terms of the advice you give? And that's where it's important that you're going on and you get additional education, and whether that's the American College or somewhere else, but you got to get the additional training. You've got to stay on top of things related to ethics, related to some of the laws that are out there, the changing products and services are available. And if you don't do that, there is a question over, are you truly complying with the true spirit of best interest for my client?
I appreciate that, George, because it's important. We know professionally and personally, we are constantly evolving, and we have to continue our education to make sure that we are up to date. Who else would like to give some comments on that question?
I would like to actually flip. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Whitney.
Okay. I would actually like to flip it in that I think it's very important that employers actually provide those professional development opportunities to their actual employees, because right now there's so much competition out there. The more skin in the game an employee feels that their employer is putting in as it pertains to them, the more likely they will stay. And also realizing that word of mouth is the most powerful tool out there. So the more that your employee is actually talking about all of the amazing professional development opportunities that you're allowing them to seek out, the more other people are taking note of this particular company. So I think that's super duper important, and realizing it's a win-win, because not only are they taking more note of your company, this particular individual now has a greater professional development than they had prior, that they can now build further within your actual department. So I think more so, I'm putting it back on the employers to actually provide those opportunities, especially with the IA channel. A lot of designations are available for agents. So are we providing those designations to our staff? Are we saying, hey, we want to make sure that you succeed and are able to be the best you that you're able to be?
That's a great point, Whitney, because the statistics are telling us that millennials don't stay in their positions with companies as long as our generation did. The millennials are moving around, I think, 4 careers maybe. And I've heard, I want to say maybe per decade, or not necessarily careers, jobs, 4 careers, 4 jobs in maybe a decade. They move around. So perhaps if carriers, companies are taking more of an interest individually in the professional development, we'll see less of that. Did you had something, George, that looked like?
Yeah, I think Whitney raises a good point, and so one of the millennial group is that they are different than our generation. Our generation said, if I can get a job, I'm staying as long as the conditions are fairly well and they pay me decent, and it's a pretty decent environment. But this generation that's coming now is basically saying, I'm going to vote with my feet. If you're not investing in me, if you're not giving me a good environment to be a part of, I'll just go somewhere else. And that's exactly what they're doing. So I think Whitney's point about what companies have to do is really important. Here's the challenge. I don't see a lot of companies doing it. Whether it's the pressures that they're having from the marketplace because of low interest rate environment, or their investment in technology, and they're actually cutting back sometimes on the development, we will lose the millennial group if we're not investing in their development. That is actually what makes them stay. Are you socially conscious? Are you investing in my future? Are you giving me opportunities? Are you allowing me to speak my voice? And if companies don't do those things, they are going to lose out. So I think Whitney's point is so relevant in terms of what it is. It is a different generation, but even those are the things that we're seeing in the, think about it, we're saying what we're doing for advisors. Those customer demands are the same. They're actually being flipped. And so, companies have to recognize that your investment in your distribution system is just as valuable to your clients, because that's what they're demanding. These same things that this millennial group is involved in. So I think she has a point there. But we've actually watched companies more recently reduced the reimbursement that they do on most of their designations. And again, it's part of it's the marketplace, the pressures that they have. And what we're saying to them, and again, this is not saying you got to go to the American College or anywhere else. What we're saying to them is you're going to lose this group if you don't.
Great point. Todd, did you have something to add?
Yeah, just that our business is constantly changing. How we grow our revenue base is constantly changing. How we actually maximize profit is changing. I mean, how we target our client base. And that's why I think professional development and continuing education is so important. I think one of the best things that anybody can do for their career, particularly, in this business is, no matter what stage you're at, remain a student of the business, because the business is constantly changing. And if you don't actually bring yourself in line with the benchmarks that may rule one era versus another, you're going to find yourself irrelevant pretty quickly. And I really think that, as George points out, as Whitney points out, it's also incumbent upon companies to constantly develop their employees. It's a win-win situation. When somebody actually becomes a little bit more adept at a certain skill set, and they grow intellectually, or they grow educationally, I should say, they feel better about the company, and the company actually has a more able employee. And if I may, every era, it seems like in business, actually has a phrase which is kind of the flavor of the day, if you will. I remember in the 90s, everybody was talking about SWOT analysis. In the turn of the millennium, SMB became a big focus as we realized that smaller entrepreneurial operations were another avenue of business that we could actually try to attack as insurance companies and reinsurance companies. What you hear a lot today is innovation and emotional intelligence. There are a lot of psychologists who have actually gone one step further and said that, being able to read people and perceive situations, that's not just learned behavior. That's not just an art. That's an intellect that some people have a higher capacity of learning than others. And innovation, there are a lot of economists that feel that we are on the dawn of another industrial revolution. Just when you think about smart machines and what they're going to do, it's going to really rewrite the script on what is going to be necessary for people to do. We've actually, a lot of people, lawyers, accountants, underwriters, you name it. We've taken some, I think, comfort in the fact that, we were in jobs that required thinking, and that machines could only do, they could actually do manual tasks a lot quicker, but they couldn't think. Well, that's changing. Smart machines, right now there are machines that can come within the 90th percentile of very experienced Harvard B School grads in terms of telling you what your investment portfolio should look like. So I think as innovation and emotional intelligence become that much more important and get that much more airtime, that there are going to be a lot of opportunities opening up for people. And that's why it's really, really important that people do what they can to just keep their development going. Because again, just like IT opened up a lot of opportunities for people from a lot of different communities, I think this appreciation for emotional intelligence and innovation will too. So I think everybody should get ready and continue just to build up wherever they can from an educational standpoint, because now is the time.
It sounds like you're tying together emotional intelligence with artificial intelligence in the wake of artificial intelligence, I guess I want to say. Priscilla, did you have something to add to that point?
Sure. So as I think about now is the time, what came to mind for me is for all of us to think about now is the time to do a self-assessment of our skills, right? Our computer skills, our social media skills, our marketing skills, our data analytics skills. But I want to spend a little time from the professional development piece and just talk about our skills as it relates to relationship building and being influential and political, right? So we can all have the best technical skills, but if we don't know how to work with people, which ties to the emotional intelligence,
Absolutely.
It's just going to be very challenging. So what I would challenge each of us to do is to think about your level of confidence in three specific areas. Number one, how confident are you with your technical skills, right? Usually all of us are very confident with our technical skills, i.e. that ties to some of the different designations, or certifications that we've gotten, our professional educational careers, et cetera, et cetera. That's fine. The second area is think about your level of confidence when it comes to building relationships and networking. Are you able to do a good job at that? Because when you have all this great technical knowledge and you want to share it, you've got to know how to share it in the right way, right? It's not just a matter of walking into a meeting and saying, hey, I have this great idea, right? You have to figure out who the influencers are, who the stakeholders are, and you've got to learn how to build those skill sets to understand who's in the room and who it is that you need to influence. And then the other piece to think about it, which is what I've already mentioned, is just the whole political influential piece. How influential are you? Are you as influential as you think you are, right? And even as we talk about the younger generations coming into the workplace, how we've interacted with, coworkers and peers in the past may have to shift a little bit because we have different, mindsets and attitudes coming into the workplace. So again, just being very conscious and doing that constant self-assessment of our skill sets, both those hard skills and those soft skills.
Those are really good.
Can I add something for what Priscilla said? Because I think she is so on point in terms
Yeah, she's
of
spot on.
that. I think to add two things to that. That as a former employer in different capacities, there are two things I'd add. One is you take those three skills and can you add critical thinking? Because the thing, even if your ability to do all of that, you're going to walk into more complex situations as life gets more complicated with technology and all the things come in. So can you categorize all those things in your head and then come up and do critical thinking and say, okay, this is the right thing for the situation that I'm in? That's the first one, is that I can process all the information and think about it logically in such a way that this is what we should do. Which leads me to the other component, and this is the one that a lot of times I struggle with my teams and people that I've had to lead, and it's called judgment. You can give me all the right information, and based on everything that's in front of me, I could say, you know what, the data says I do this, but now when I think about relationships, I think about political influence, I think about critical thinking, I think about emotional intelligence, I'm like, it seems that I should do the opposite thing. And if you don't have good judgment to be able to decipher that and make the right decision, it's tough. And I tell the people that I'm trying to develop is that judgment does not require you to make every right decision. It does require you to make good decisions that even if are wrong, you understand what went wrong and how you can fix it. And that gets you back to your critical thinking. But I think she's on point. You add a couple of those other things, and in terms of how people are going to have to evolve in their thinking in the future, it's just getting more and more complicated.
Agreed.
Okay, well, yeah, I agree. Those are really great points. And the constant thing the theme that was coming to mind for me as all of you were speaking is mentorship, authenticity, and you're right, critical thinking, because when you're meeting people and building relationships, it's important to do that in your authentic self, as your authentic self. Because somebody like me, I can spot a counterfeit from a mile away, and people won't engage you in their professional environment to work with you if they can't trust what you'll do. And so I appreciate all those points, and you were spot on. The third question, and we're going to move quickly through this one, is it critical to have a business, insurance, or risk management degree to be successful in our industry? I'm going to call on you, Priscilla, first.
Thanks. I've kind of just toggled back and forth on this question. Yes, it's critical, to have the knowledge of the insurance industry, risk management, et cetera, et cetera. But is it absolutely required? I would say no. From the standpoint of there are a lot of people that I know that are in the insurance industry that did not major in insurance, myself as a perfect example. But I think it goes back to some of the things that we've talked about in terms of, making sure that you have a very strong technical foundation so that, obviously when you're in the room, when you're in the meeting, you can, you have insight, you have an opinion on something. But I also think there's that again, just that whole social, emotional intelligence piece. That's also important to have. So is it critical? Yes, absolutely. Is it absolutely required for you to be successful in the insurance industry? I would say no.
Okay, thank you. Todd,
Sure.
I'll call on you next.
Well, I guess everybody's specific profession kind of colors their answer to this sort of question. I would actually come at it a little differently. I would say having an insurance degree is helpful. I wouldn't say it's critical. Now, understand that, what I do, I'm involved in large transactions that involve a lot in the way of capital management. I really believe that we've gotten to the point where capital is capital, and how you manage capital from where an insurance company is concerned is not all too different than how you would if you were managing an investment fund. To that end, I think that having a business degree, specifically something that maybe involve financial analysis, maybe marketing and the like, I think that has become critical. I think that the lines are starting to blur between what is insurance and what is other sorts of areas of financial management. I think it's all capital management, and having some sort of background along the lines of the quantitative in terms of how we look at things from various economical perspectives, as well as from financial analysis perspective, I think that's very critical. I think, again, having an insurance degree makes you a lot more familiar with the terminology, maybe even the culture of various companies. But again, just based upon what I do, I think it's get to the point where capital is capital. So I would say that having a business degree is becoming a little bit more critical than maybe having an insurance degree.
I'll speak
George,
up.
you want to give us the educational perspective?
Yeah, so I'm gonna actually step in the middle of the two of them.
Okay.
This is, I guess my view of it is that I don't know that business, insurance, or risk management degree are even required for you to be successful in this space. And the reason is that they are skill sets that you can learn. So if I needed a person to help our IT department at an insurance company, do they need to know insurance? No, they don't. I could actually teach them insurance if they can bring the skill set of technology to the table, and then we merge the two, and we're more successful. I know a lot of people with business degrees that I would never do business with. I know people who have backgrounds in risk management but are not good at risk management. And so I think we actually get back to your emotional intelligence, your ability to do critical thinking, your intelligence level of your ability to learn new skill sets and terminologies, I think are more important. If you think historically about how most of us went to college, unless you get a very technical or terminal degree, you were typically taught to learn and persistency. Just stay with it, you get your degree, and then you can leave. And then a lot of us, unless it was in our specific wheelhouse, never even went to the job that we had our degree in. But we showed the ability to learn. And so when I think of the business of insurance, I think of insurance itself, and I think of risk management. And 15 years ago at New York Life, you couldn't get a job unless you had background in life insurance. Today, when I left 4 months ago, I will tell you that over 50% of the people that now work there had no insurance experience whatsoever, because the skill sets that we were needing to compete in the marketplace, not just against insurance companies, but others, have all changed the game. And we realized that what we could do was take all of our expertise of people who do actuary, insurance, risk management, compliance, and all those things. There were things that we could teach.
We're also
I like to, address that a little bit, if that's okay. For the record, yes, I think it's possible for people to still come into our business and actually do well if they don't have certain skill sets, if they just have the capacity to learn, if they have the emotional intelligence. But I do think, you can be a lot more competitive if you actually have certain backgrounds and certain skill sets. I mean, I don't think, if we're talking about just being able to do well, yes, maybe so. But I think there's certain areas of our business where if you do have the skill sets and you bring that with you, you're going to be that much more competitive. I mean, you can have a lot of emotional intelligence. You can be generally intelligent, but you just don't become an actuary overnight. And not actually having been somebody who actually has a mathematical degree, that's going to put you at a disadvantage. You can actually, again, be very, very generally intelligent. But if you don't have any sort of exposure to various aspects of financial management, trying to actually have certain jobs like the job that I have, might not, you can do well, but I mean, you will be much more competitive if you've been exposed to various principles of financial management. So again, I mean, I do agree with George that it is possible that certain things do transcend various aspects of our business, but I think there are other areas of our business where if you do come in with some sort of skill set which is actually in line with that, you're going to be that much more competitive than the rest of the pack.
And actually,
I want to hear. Oh, go ahead, George.
Because, see, I don't define math as a business degree, but in order to be an actuary, I would agree you should have math. And I think that if you're going to be a finance major, I could bring you from a bank, or I could even bring you from a manufacturer and you've done finance, and I could put you there. That does not require you to have the insurance component or the risk management component.
We agree with that.
Yeah.
So
There's certain things that you bring in.
Yeah. I agree. You don't necessarily need the insurance degree. I'm just saying, I do think in certain respects, having a business degree specifically can really be an advantage.
Let me tie this together for you guys, because you're not saying really things that differ very much.
I don't think so.
Really, yeah. The point is, first of all, in our generation, risk management and insurance degrees didn't exist, and at some schools it's more a concentration than it is a program. The other point that I'd like to make is it depends on the discipline. That's the point that you're making.
Yes. Depending
on the discipline that you're seeking to have a career in our industry, you might benefit more from having exposure to the terminology and the concepts of our industry before you get actually into a job. But the other point is, I will take somebody who's willing over somebody who has a degree because it used not to exist, and I had a very successful career. I mean, times are different now, obviously, than when I came out of school. But I'll take a person who is willing to learn over somebody who comes in, not willing to learn. And there are more people with law degrees who are entering our industry now, because there are opportunities really across. Our industry is so broad, it is so wide and deep, that I'm amazed at what I'm seeing now, and I'm so pleased to see the schools across the country who now have these programs in place. I don't want to miss any points that you wanted to make on that question, Whitney, and then we're going to just kind of pull this all together before the end of the seminar.
Certainly, I would just also say, as far as innovation and diversity of thought, which I feel like everyone has kind of been talking about a little bit, how important that is for us to even those risk management or the schools that have the risk management programs, for them to understand the importance of pulling in students that aren't necessarily a part of the risk management program to participate in various events. So for our Prism Agency Management Challenge, it's a simulation of an actual agency. So they actually have a virtual agency management portal that they go on each week, and they make decisions. And it was very important to us that we had a diverse group of students. Yes, we wanted to make sure we had underrepresented students as far as race and ethnicity to participate in these teams, but we also wanted to make sure there was a diverse group of actual majors. Yes, we know that most of the students will be risk management majors, but we wanted to see students coming from just, the business school, finance, and other majors, so that they could be exposed and realize, maybe I could do something like this. So at the end of the day, it is that whole learning thing. Do they have the ability to learn this skill, these technical skills?
That's right. Yeah, all important points. And we're going to kind of interact a little more freely now versus the question and answer format. But diversity and inclusion is such a big, there's so many points that are made here in this discussion. Diversity inclusion is a big buzz phrase now, and I like to make the point when I'm on a panel or speaking that diversity, of course, doesn't just have to do with age, gender, or race. It's also, as you touched on, Whitney, diversity of thought, diversity of skill sets we've touched on, diversity in our professional and personal cultures. All those points come into play. And also the inclusion word is not just invitation, it's engagement. And some of the way that you learn to engage in our industry and to build relationships, Priscilla, you touched on, we've talked about skill sets, we've talked about emotional intelligence, I want to emphasize, is to get a mentor. I mentor several people, but I have a panel of mentors myself. Even the mentor needs a mentor. Mm-hmm. Because a mentor will be honest with you about you as you're trying to do that self-assessment that Priscilla talked about, and they can dream for you beyond your capacity. Sometimes if you have someone who knows you and is working with you, they can identify cross skills and maybe identify opportunities that you may not have even considered because you just don't look at yourself the same way as someone else looks at you who is actually working with you to attempt to assist with identifying other opportunities. The other point that I will make in our industry is there are so many opportunities, but sometimes people don't know how to identify them. And my mentor says, you take advantage of the opportunity of a lifetime during the lifetime of the opportunity. Mm-hmm. So what are points that we want to make about continuing to educate yourself, being out of your comfort zone? We have a few more minutes, about 5 minutes, for us to just give some nuggets. Anyone?
So getting involved with the National African American Insurance Association, realizing the importance of that, employee resource group, recognizing the importance of that. Those are different areas. If you don't have a mentor already, those are opportunities where you can meet new people and totally, have that whole mentorship program naturally and organically eventually happen. So.
And I'll say this too, not only young professionals need mentoring, I've made the point, seasoned and young professionals need mentoring. In our chapter, we're launching A Game this year, and that is actually designed, it's a group mentoring program that's just quarterly, designed to give the opportunity to members, our most ambitious members in our chapter, to engage with the executives and our partners, partner organizations, so that they can assist with career navigation. And so, to your point, Whitney, organizations like NAAIA can provide that kind of opportunity for mentorship. Look like you were going to say something, Priscilla?
No, yes, when you were making the comment, or someone made the comment earlier when we were talking about, the millennials and how to attract youth, and, the fact that many of our younger professionals, they're changing jobs more often. Well, that's also on the flip side for, us baby boomers as well. While we intended maybe to be with an organization for 20, 30, 40 years, because of technology and right. Just different things that have happened, we found ourselves in the space of, oh, hey, I've got to get out here and compete with, the younger generation. So I just say that to say, as we're thinking about, sharing this information around education and resources, that we're thinking about it from all the generations, obviously, which is another dynamic of diversity, right? Mm-hmm. Just the different generations. And it's very important for all of us to think about, how we interact with each of the different generations. What are some hot buttons, right, that, cause us not to interact in the most effective way possible? Going back to that self-assessment of ourselves, just being conscious of that, right? And even when we think about, selling our products and services, whether it's to the younger generation or, to those that are about to retire or to those that are retired, right? Do we have that multidimensional lens, right, to be able to speak to those different generations?
Very important. In order to be effective, you have to be able to relate. That's right. Whitney, right. Or George?
Yeah, the other thing is that, first of all, I applaud you for driving seminars and webinars like this, because I think it's helpful for people to hear, those of us who are going through the process, been through the process, but have the years of experience. But the other thing is that I hope that those who are listening and those of us who are a part of this panel that we're going back and we're giving back. We're, talking about what this has meant to us and what opportunities it's created. And one of the things that I think is that we have a lot of people who would like to do it, but I'm really not sure how to do it. And for those of us who've been able to learn how to navigate all of the things that we face that we've said and not said, but we know what through our life experiences do exist for minority populations, for our communities, that we actually talk to them about, here's some ways for you to navigate through that process so that you can step out, take that chance, take that risk, and do it now.
Now is the time.
Now is the time.
Now is the time. Is there, that was a great segue, George. Thank you for that. Anybody?
So we're just giving general nuggets right now?
Yes, just general nuggets, pearls of wisdom, anything you'd like to impart.
Well, I also agree that having a mentor is very, very critical. Not only does it provide you with a springboard or a resource where trying to figure out your career is concerned, it's also somebody that can help you navigate through the culture that you may be working in. It's very tough for many people to understand the culture they work in, particularly when they may not represent the community that drives that culture. So having a mentor for people of color, I think, is even that much more critical because we need help sometimes navigating through the cultures in which we work in. And we need it from our perspective. The other thing I'd say is, in terms of navigating through a corporate environment, just for people who are actually working on the business side of what we do, one of the things that I always try to do that paid a few dividends for me in terms of navigation is I always stay close to my client. I mean, it's not to say that you shouldn't necessarily interact with people internally. Obviously, you should. But in terms of what allows you to navigate, just for having that strong of a relationship with your client, the person who's the decision maker on whether or not revenue will be generated. Because at the end of the day, if you understand that client and you have a relationship with that client, with that decision maker, that's always going to bring you to the forefront of a lot of meetings, a lot of discussions, and it's going to allow you to just exist that much easier. So I would say always have somebody to help you navigate through the culture. And if you're on the production side of business, always to the extent you can, stay close to the decision maker.
That's great advice. Our time is winding down. I see a couple of items in the chat box, and I don't want to forget to address some of the questions. So let me take a look and see. Okay, so I'm trying to open up the question and the Q&A. Let me see. Okay, so here's one question. Feel free to send in your questions, guys. We only have one, so we have some time to answer them. Does the mentor have to be someone in the same industry, is the question. Does the mentor have to be someone in the same industry?
I would say it's helpful because that person might understand the culture of that industry, but I don't think it's absolutely necessary. Again, I think, this is my third time using this word, I think there are certain aspects of people management and just areas of perception that transcend various corporate cultures. So I think there's certain things that, my daughter, as a matter of fact, is in the public relations business, and I've been able to help her navigate, through her culture, even though it's a totally different business. So again, I think just in terms of people management and how you actually get people's attention, how you actually make a good impression, how you actually just navigate in general. I think there's certain things that actually do trump the specific industry. So I think it's helpful, but I don't think it's absolutely necessary.
Yeah, I have mentors in the industry and outside of the industry because sometimes there's information available, or opportunities that are available that apply to the industry, but a person outside of the industry has certain insights. Does anybody else want to hit that? There is a second question that's come through. I think that's coming through.
No, just the only point being made is that it's okay to have more than one mentor, right?
Yes. Yes.
And when you're seeking a mentor, make sure that you know why you want that person to mentor you. Is it around a specific skill set? just something along that line. So be very clear as to why you want someone to be your mentor.
That's correct. And I was going to give the advice that you drive it. Go ahead, Whitney. I'm sorry.
I would also go to say more often than not, mentors are not going around saying, hey, can I be your mentor? So
you drive
have to show up. You have to actually build a rapport with these individuals. And as you build rapport, then, you can have that type of relationship. And going back to what Priscilla said, having an actual reason, coming with an actual thing that you want to be mentored in, so that once you all start having those conversations, it's not just this ambiguous term of, oh, they're my mentor, but this individual may not necessarily know what specifically it is that you need from them in mentoring. So
that is very important, and you won't be wasting their time. There is another question here from Rick Lawrence. As you think about career progression, what's the most important guidance that you've received that you leave the participants with? So, okay, as you think about career progression, what's the most important guidance that you leave the participants with?
I'll start. I would say that do something that you love and enjoy doing. I know too many people taking jobs for money, for some reputational issue, and they're miserable. You really ought to find something that you enjoy, that you love, that you can, put yourself into, because when you think about the future, you think about leadership, you should embody what you do. So I think people have to believe in it, enjoy it, and love it, and then it doesn't become work.
Yeah. And I'll add to that. Think about why you want that career progression. Obviously, all of us want to make money, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it is important to do something that you love. I remember my pastor told me, Priscilla, the higher you go, more levels, more devils, right? So think about that as you are progressing. And if you're doing something that you love, obviously it won't be as challenging for you to deal with those additional levels of devil.
That's right. Well, we're going to turn this over now for closing remarks, and I want to thank everybody, all my colleagues, for serving in this capacity today. And it's been a pleasure participating with you in this robust conversation. I'm turning it over now to NAAIA and NAAIA for closing remarks, and thank you to all the participants today. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Margaret, you're on.
Yeah, are you guys able to hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you, panel, for an absolutely phenomenal conversation. I think just based on the discussion points and what was said and maybe what wasn't said, we could have gone on for another hour or more. But the intent of these sessions is to tee up conversations and dialogue that resonate with subject matter that is of interest to our constituents. And I think that hopefully we met that need this afternoon. I thank all of you, each of you, for your time. I know all of you are busy leaders in your own right, but for you to take this moment to share with our base is very, very important. This topic itself is one that we all need to tackle each and every day of our careers, right? It's just developing ourselves, knowing who we are, making the right connections, and making sure we're keeping that career trajectory going in the right way is an important thing for each and every one of us, because these jobs, these careers take so much from us, require so much from us, right? This has been an absolutely phenomenal month with the 4 sessions that we've had. I want to give an applaud and a shout out to Priscilla Hammonds, who is the NAAIA National Committee Chair for Programming. And much of what you've seen and experienced over this month is a result of the work that she has led. So thank you, Priscilla. We really appreciate it.
And Margaret, I have to add that a lot of this would not have happened without all of your phone calls and your direction. So I have to give you that same amount of recognition and love right back.
Thank you, my sister.
You're welcome.
We've actually had over 400 folk to join these calls this month, and that's been phenomenal. The feedback and the reaction and the response has been great. Keep it coming. And those of you who weren't able to ask your questions today, you know, you can always send them in through the NAAIA website or directly to me or any of the folk on this phone. But again, thank you all for your time, your attention, your resource, and more to come. NAAIA Conference 2019, September 11th to the 13th in Atlanta, back at the Marriott Marquis, hosted by the wonderful Miss Rebecca Ratliff and her team there in the Atlanta AAIP chapter. Thank you all and have a wonderful afternoon.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Thank you.